So, what is your name? Tell me some stuff about you and your identity.
Okay, well, my name is Kevin Ding. I'm Chinese. My parents are immigrants from China. I identify as a Chinese Canadian.
What is your thoughts and opinions regarding the indigenous issues in Canada?
I think it's pretty clear that our government doesn't have an adequate amount of respect for our indigenous population. I think it's very obvious that they don't respect the contributions that our indigenous have made to our country, and the fact that the government is clearly ignoring their rightful place as the original inhabitant of the land that we live on.
What's your thought on the truth to reconciliation?
I think it's a good thing that we're making progress, because I really like to see the fact that the government is at least acknowledging these issues on a public stage, which they weren't doing like 100 years ago. Truth and reconciliation is still just one step forward in a list of many steps forward to come.
How does your identity play a factor in your opinions and your stance, which you stated above on these issues?
I think as the son of immigrants, I think I understand the fact that it can feel like you don't belong to the land as much as other people do, which of course is a strange feeling for people from the indigenous populace to have, considering the fact that they actually were original inhabitants of the land. I feel like it helps me at least relate partly to the tribulations they've been through, of course, though it's nothing like what they've been through, because obviously we haven't been through as much.
And last question, when listening to indigenous issues, does it empower you to create change, and why?
I feel like knowing about the issues that are happening around our environment is critical to be able to being able to incite change. Not knowing that there's a problem means that you can't solve it. You have to know that there's an issue to try making steps toward reconciling it. I think the idea is like knowing the tribulations that our indigenous populace is going through. I think it really helps you be able to, first of all, relate to what they're going through, and then think about what can be done in the future. It's important, as we live in a democratic society, that the voices of people, even our age, are heard, because we can incite significant change in the policies of the future.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Hamza Wasim. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I was born in Saudi Arabia, Dammam. I like soccer. I like math.
So what's your thoughts and opinions regarding the indigenous issues?
My thoughts and opinions is that it's a serious issue and it should be addressed, because the indigenous, it was their land first and then we borrowed it. Instead of being unthankful, we should thank more, as the land acknowledgement is very important. We should pay attention to the words that are being spoken in the land acknowledgement, as well as we should also try to solve their other issues, such as water issues for the First Nations, as in my opinion, I don't think we're doing as much as they did for us.
All right, thank you. So what's your thought on the truth and reconciliation?
Truth and reconciliation, I think it's a good decision. We should be Orange Shirt Day, where we come together to recognize the First Nation. I think that's a pretty good idea in my opinion, because we're understanding how we went wrong and how we can change the future for them.
And then how does your identity play a factor in your opinions and stance, which you had stated above?
My identity plays that because I'm Muslim as well, and sometimes people they discriminate our kind as well. I think I've experienced how my background or ethnicity can be used against me, and I think we should like racism, and we should all be one together and just be tribe together and help one another.
So my name is Shernay Ajmeri. I'm Indian. I come from the state of Gujarat. I was born here in Canada, 2006.
So what's your thoughts and opinions regarding the indigenous issues?
For me, I feel like the indigenous issues have become a major problem of the government, mostly because the government isn't really providing enough funding and enough, not enough resources for the indigenous to actually like live a good life. They're being put on the reservations, and they're also not really being like catered to. The government is already getting a lot of money, so they could maybe put a bit more money towards it.
And what is your thoughts on the truth and reconciliation?
Thoughts on truth and reconciliation? Honestly, I'm pretty indifferent when it comes to the truth and reconciliation, mostly because it's not really a big thing for me. I don't really pay a lot of attention to these kind of things, so I honestly don't really have a very strong opinion, being completely honest.
All right. So, how does your identity play a factor on your opinion and stance? And how does that empower? What do you call it? How does that also play a role into your statement above, which saying that you didn't really pay attention to the truth and reconciliation process?
I'd say that because of my identity, I'm not really a big player in Canadian issues. I more so focus on issues from, I guess, my homeland, India. I kind of don't really pay attention to the indigenous stuff because it doesn't really concern me. And generally, yes, I do feel like the government is kind of skimping out on actually funding the indigenous reservations. but I also feel like my identity has kind of shunned that portion of like thought I have towards the indigenous, and so therefore, yeah, I don't really care too much.
Last question. So when listening to Indigenous issues, does it empower you to create change, and why?
When I listen to indigenous issues, I feel like it does empower me to create change. However, it does feel a bit monotonous after certain amounts of time because you hear it all the time in the news. And yes, I do acknowledge these are pretty big problems, but sometimes you just hear them a lot in the news, and sometimes you kind of get fed up with it, kind of.
All right. So tell us first, what is your name, and tell us some stuff about you and where you're from.
My name's Sasha Dermanic. I'm from Serbia, and I feel happy right now.
Okay. What is your thoughts and opinions regarding Indigenous issues?
I think nowadays it might be a little bit better than it was in the past, with residential schools and stuff. But, there's still a lot of people, Indigenous people, who are living, like, in poverty all around Canada, and I feel like some of them may not even have, like, basic needs like water and, like, shelter and stuff, so it's still a big issue.
Okay. And what is your thoughts on truth and reconciliation?
I think it's actually like very good for Indigenous people and like recognizing the struggles they go through, because like sometimes people may not even know that they have struggles or whatever because they've been getting supported for the longest time and the government's always talking about how they're supporting them, but sometimes that might not be the case.
Okay. How does your identity play a factor in opinions and stances on these issues?
How does my identity play a factor? I think since I'm like also a person who's not necessarily like fully white or someone that's like American or that type of descent, I can kind of relate to like the struggles they go through because I know that Serbia has gone through some struggles too with like bombing and stuff, and we haven't been like really supported by NATO or people like governments, so I can kind of understand their struggles a little bit.
And finally, last question. When listening to Indigenous issues, does it empower you to create change, and why?
I feel like it does a little bit because you kind of feel bad for them because like basically no, but you feel bad for them because like they're getting put into all these residential schools and taken from their homes. Obviously that stopped now, but still even now they don't have water or basic stuff that we all take for granted, so you kind of feel bad. You want to help them out.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
It's love.